Welcome to Mystic Eternal Enigmas, where we unravel the greatest mysteries of the ancient world. Dive in and explore the secrets that time has yet to reveal. On a night when you find yourself on a dark, lonely road, the shadows seem to stretch out, reaching for you. The rustling of leaves makes you jump, your heart racing faster and faster, fueled by your imagination. Unless, of course, you're on the road to Resurrection Cemetery, just southwest of Chicago. The 1930s were drawing to a close in Chicago as Jerry Polis spent an evening out with friends at the Liberty Grove Ballroom. But Jerry's focus wasn't on his companions. It was captivated by a beautiful young woman standing across the dance hall. Her blonde curls rested on her shoulders, framing a face that glowed in the dim light. Dressed in a white gown, she stood alone, watching others enjoy the music, seemingly disconnected from the world around her. Intrigued and emboldened, Jerry, known among his friends as a bit of a ladies' man, decided to approach her. The woman agreed to dance but spoke very little, her silence adding to the mysterious aura that surrounded her. Despite this, Jerry found himself completely entranced, dancing with her throughout the night. She introduced herself as Mary and mentioned living on the south side of town, but remained elusive about other details of her life. One thing Jerry did notice was that Mary felt unnaturally cold to the touch, her skin icy against his own. Yet, this strange chill didn't deter him. As the night wore on and the band played its final number, Jerry offered to drive Mary home. She agreed, and they walked to his car. Mary asked Jerry to take her down Archer Avenue, a long stretch of road that passes by Resurrection Cemetery. Though she had already given him an address on South Damon Avenue, Jerry complied, driving along the quiet road. Mary's silence persisted until she suddenly asked him to stop the car near the cemetery's entrance. Confused, Jerry obliged. As she got out, Mary told him not to follow her. Jerry, puzzled and concerned, watched as she walked towards the cemetery gates and then vanished into thin air before his very eyes. That night, Jerry returned home alone, unable to sleep as he wrestled with what he had just witnessed. The next morning, seeking answers, he visited the address Mary had given him. An older woman answered the door, denying that anyone named Mary lived there. But Jerry noticed a photograph inside the home, and there was Mary, the woman he had danced with the night before. When he questioned this, the older woman grew upset, revealing that Mary was her daughter, but that she had died years ago. Jerry had encountered one of Chicago's most infamous ghosts, Resurrection Mary. Today, we're exploring the story of Resurrection Mary, either one of the most frequently reported ghost sightings in America or simply a creepy urban legend from Chicago. The story of Jerry Polis gained fame in the 90s, but we'll dig into as many recorded sightings of Mary as possible, discussing the theories about who this ghostly figure might be. Some are brief sightings, while others are detailed narratives. What makes this tale particularly fascinating, compared to your average urban legend, is the sheer number of first-hand accounts rather than the usual friend of a friend stories. So, let's get into it. This is the story of Resurrection Mary. Before Mary became the legend she is today, there was another ghostly woman in white reported along Archer Avenue, near Street James of the Sag Cemetery, one of the largest active cemeteries of the time. In 1897, a church fair was held in a dance hall near the police station in the area known as Sag Valley. Two musicians from Chicago, Professor William Looney and John Kelly, were hired to perform. After the event, they decided to spend the night in the dance hall, setting up cots on the upper floor. Around 1:00 a.m., they were awoken by the sound of galloping horses and the rattle of a carriage outside. Rushing to the window, they saw nothing, just an empty road under the moonlight. But the sound persisted, growing louder as if the invisible horses were passing by. Confused, the men retreated from the window, only for the noise to return. This time, they saw a woman in white standing in the middle of the road, her dark hair flowing as she seemed to glide along without moving her legs. The Chicago Tribune later described her as having deep melancholy reflected from sepulchral eyes. Suddenly, a group of white horses, pulling a dark carriage without a driver, appeared. The woman raised her arms, moving closer to the men, but then she and the carriage vanished into the ground. Professor Looney later swore an affidavit to the truth of this story, insisting that it was no prank, as anyone attempting such a joke in the area would risk being shot. This wasn't the first time a spirit was reported along Archer Avenue. Earlier that year, workers digging at the drain canal unearthed the bones of 9 Native Americans, one of whom was over 7 feet tall. The New York Times reported that similar discoveries had been made years earlier, with locals claiming to have seen the ghosts of Native Americans on horseback, demanding that their bones be reinterred. By the early 1930s, reports began to emerge of a mysterious woman in a white ball gown, with blonde hair, appearing along Archer Avenue. She would jump onto the running boards of passing cars, hitching a ride for a few moments before vanishing, terrifying drivers. These sightings became more frequent, especially near the Old Henry Ballroom, later renamed the Willowbrook Ballroom. Some witnesses claimed to see her inside the ballroom, a lone figure who seemed to appear out of nowhere. In 1935, a 24-year-old man named William overturned his car near the ballroom, telling police he had swerved to avoid a woman with sightless eyes who had tried to hitchhike. In the late 1940s, a cemetery caretaker claimed to have seen a beautiful girl roaming Resurrection Cemetery at night. Similar sightings continued into the 1950s, with stories eerily similar to Jerry's, young men offering a ride to a girl who vanished near the cemetery gates. By the 1970s, the tale grew stranger, with reports of a woman in a yellowed gown appearing in nightclubs, dancing alone or petting around the dance floor, only to disappear. Chad's Melody Lounge, a bar near Resurrection Cemetery, became a hotspot for Mary sightings. Patrons and employees alike reported strange occurrences, and a tradition began of leaving a Bloody Mary at the end of the bar for the ghostly guest. One night, a taxi driver rushed into the bar, claiming that a blonde woman in a white dress had jumped out of his cab and run into the bar, only to disappear. The most famous incident occurred in 1976 when a patrolman received a call about a woman trapped inside Resurrection Cemetery. Upon arriving, he found the metal bars of the cemetery fence bent apart, with scorch marks that resembled small handprints. This melted bars incident became legendary, though skeptics later claimed it was caused by a cemetery worker accidentally backing a truck into the fence. Reports of resurrection Mary continued into the 1980s, with witnesses claiming to see her walking along Archer Avenue or disappearing from cars. In 1989, 2 women driving near the cemetery saw a woman in white running into the road. They hit her, but there was no sound or impact, and when they got out to check, the woman was gone. Even today, Mary's story endures, though modern pranksters have muddied the waters by dressing up as her. Despite this, after nearly a century of sightings, Resurrection Mary remains an infamous figure in Chicago folklore. The truth behind her story is elusive, with many theories about her identity. Some believe she was a young girl who died in a car accident in the 1920s or 30s, but the true identity of Resurrection Mary remains a mystery. Whether a product of urban legend or a real haunting, the tale of Resurrection Mary continues to captivate those who travel down Archer Avenue, wondering if they might catch a glimpse of Chicago's most famous ghost. Thanks for watching Mystic Eternal Enigmas. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries. See you in the next adventure.